And hit it.
And now, for your enjoyment, a quick minute with your humble host, Jay Thomas. Take it away, Jay.
I'm taking it out. Thank you very much, sir. All right. We're back. We have an update on the murder conviction of Alec Murdaugh. Woo. Busy day. Okay, so if you don't know who Alec Murdaugh is, you've been living under a rock for, I guess, a few years. Let's take it to Fox News.
Fox News alert now. Breaking news this morning in the Alec Murdaugh murder case. South Carolina's Supreme Court has just thrown out Alexander Murdaugh's conviction for killing his wife Maggie and son Paul. The court is ordering a brand new trial after finding the court clerk improperly influenced the jury.
Whew. And she did too. If you've been following this, I've listened to the book and everything, and I've watched the entire trial. You can see it. It's on Fox News. It's on their was it Fox? What do I got here? I got two Fox News things. It's aggravating. It's called what is it? Fox Nation. That's what it is. So it's on Fox Nation. You can watch it. Just put in Murdaugh trial, and they'll come up. And it's Murdaugh. It's Murdaugh, but it's spelled Murdaugh because he's an idiot. He's just the guy's. Anyway, he should go to jail just for that name. So what happened? Okay, the court clerk is called the Colton County Clerk of Court, Rebecca Hill, placed her fingers on the scales of justice, thereby denying Murdaugh his right to a fair trial by an impartial jury. Our justice system provides, indeed demands, that every person is entitled to a fair trial, which includes the impartial jury untainted by external forces bent on influencing the jury toward a biased verdict. Although we are aware of the time, money, and effort expended for this lengthy trial, we have no choice but to reverse the denial of Murdaugh's motion for a new trial, because that was dismissed, due to Hill's improper external influences and on the jury, and remand for a new trial. So they kicked out the lower court's ruling. They had a court case. The lower court said that all this evidence didn't mean that the trial was tainted, and they said, tough toenails, get the hell out of here. This court said no, it was. It was tainted, and it amounted to jury tampering, which is punishable by a long term in jail. You get caught taking money from the mob and tampering with the jury, you go to prison for 10 years. Now let's see what it says. They found, and this is per curiam, which means everybody on the court, there wasn't one dissent, that jury tampering and improper external influence by the clerk of court, Rebecca Hill, the Colton County Clerk of Court, made a series of improper comments and interventions directed at the jury during the trial, including advising jurors not to believe Murdaugh's testimony. She did that. She said, "Do not be fooled by the defense or the defense attorneys," urging jurors to watch Murdaugh closely. Look at his actions. Look at his movements. Well, this guy's lying his ass off. Which the jurors, she didn't say that, which the jurors interpreted as implying he was guilty. That's what they were saying. Pressuring the juries to reach a quick guilty verdict. She's like, look, this shouldn't take long. Hurry up, And it was only like an hour. They went in, they said, yeah, he's guilty. They walked out. That was about it. Making comments that the day Murdaugh testified was an important day and an epic day. and then saying that, keep an eye on him because he's lying to you. He's attempting to influence the removal of a juror she believed favored the defense. That was the girl. That was the lady who worked at the Monkey House, and she was actually she was looking at and smiling at Murdaugh, and also she would laugh at his attorney's lame jokes. And I'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, so all these needed what was her motivation? Hill, she had a book to sell, and they told her if he is found guilty, we'll sell more books. Which I don't know if that's true. If he was found not guilty, people would go, what the hell? And they would really about the book. The impact of these were found to be more than innocuous interventions like they were found in the lower court. They directly attacked the defendant's credibility and defense attorneys and were intended to push the jury toward a guilty verdict. That's what they all found. All of them. That's a lot. That's a per curiam. That's important. So all of this, the court found a violation of the right to a fair trial by an impartial jury. And they said, well, only a couple. They said, no, you need all 12 jurors have to be impartial. You can't have one or two that were influenced. You have to have all 12. The court found that Hill's actions constituted an external influence on the jury. Violating his constitutional right to a fair trial, the court applied the Remmer presumption of prejudice, which presumes the prejudice when there is improper external contact with the jury. So they presume that prejudice. And this is a South Carolina verdict in South Carolina law. The state failed to rebut this presumption. So they have to presume that there's already jury tampering if there's any external pressure. The court emphasized that even if only a few jurors heard the improper comments, the defendant is entitled to a trial by 12 impartial jurors, not just a couple. So that's why it was per curiam. They're like, you can't do this. You can't have court clerks going, yeah, that guy's guilty as hell now. What do you want for lunch? The errors of the post-trial court were that they ignored it, and they said it was like, they improperly relied on a juror testimony. They said that the effect didn't bother her, that she wasn't affected by it. You can't do that. It's a presumption that it did. So this isn't the only thing either. There was evidentiary problems too. All right. So the primary reason for overturning was the improper. What the court clerk did, the improper the jury tampering. But there was evidence. The evidence was a problem, and the financial crimes were addressed as a, look, we're going to overturn this, and we don't have to look at the rest of this crap. We're overturning this because of this. This is so egregious. So we're overturning of this, but watch out, because you went overboard on the financial crimes that he did. Was that the court did not address the issue of evidentiary related to the Murdaugh'S financial crimes, but only to provide guidance. So they did provide guidance for the new trial. The trial court allowed extensive evidence of Murdaugh'S financial crimes, like 2 or 3 days. It got so bad that the Murdaugh'S lawyer stood up and said, "This is a Bernie Madoff trial. This isn't a murder trial." He hadn't heard murder in like 2 days. It's all financial crimes. The Supreme Court found that while some evidence of financial crimes was relevant and admissible, the state was allowed to go too far and too deep. They weren't probative or motive and are highly prejudicial. This is, for example, they dragged this poor kid up there, and he looks a lot younger than he is. They drag him up there, and it's his mother died walking off the porch at Murdaugh'S residence, and they sued. There was a big thing about it, and that doesn't matter. But it said, for example, the testimony about Murdaugh stealing from a vulnerable adult was found to have zero probative value for the motive. And they dragged this guy up there, and he looks like he's a young kid. He looks like he's 16. He's actually 30, and he's a little bit slow. So it really impacted the jury. So they have to do that too. Also, what they did is they had these guns, and the guns weren't the ones that were used in the murder, but they had them in evidence boxes, and they were showing them like they were the evidence. And so there's that too. So there was a lot wrong with it. I knew this was going to happen, especially after what you read. It's like there's no way they're going to let this stand. After you read what this lady did, the court clerk, the Colton County clerk of courts, what she did, what Rebecca Hill did, was crazy. So let's go over what he did. Let's take a look at it. Okay, on the evening of June 7th in 2021, at the house on Moselle, the hunting estate, Alec Murdaugh shot his son with a 12 gauge shotgun, once in the chest with double op buck, and then he took some bird shot, put the gun underneath his chin, and blew his brain out the top of his head. That's insane. He did this because his son, he first of all, he created this kid. He let the kid drink and drive and drink and take his boat out and drink some more. They get blind drunk and drive around and sail around on his boat. And he killed this girl, this poor girl. What was her name? Her name was, damn it, I can't remember her name. All right, he was awaiting trial. Paul was, the son, for Mallory Beach, and she was 19. She was a pretty girl, and he was a drunken boat crash. He had a boat accident, and it killed her. And they couldn't find her body for like 5 days. It was floating around in the water, and that poor girl didn't deserve to die like that. You know, Murdaugh being a powerful attorney, they didn't do anything for years. It was over a year. They finally dragged him in, and then to arrest him, and they didn't even have they didn't have him in a orange jumpsuit or anything. He just looks like a 19-year-old kid in a t-shirt and a shirt, just a regular guy. It was terrible, and so he was being sued. Because he was not Paul, but the father, Alec Murdaugh, was being sued. Murdaugh was being sued for like $10 million for wrongful death because he allowed his son to drive to boat drunk. So that was the reason. That was the reason to kill his son. The underlying reason, the financial reason, is that he was also stealing all this money from all these people. And all these, like the young kid that he had, that young guy who he looks like a teenager. So he had this guy, this other lady who lost her mother. He stole $12 million from his clients, from his friends, from everybody. He just took it. And so this was because he was being sued for Mallory's death. All this was going to come out. So instead of facing that, he shot the theory goes, he shot his son and his wife that night. And he blew his son's brain out. It's really amazing. I mean, what he did is disgusting. So after he shoots his son, Maggie, his wife, was sort of running. Apparently, this is what the coroner says. She was running to see what was going on, and Maggie Murdaugh was shot 5 times. He changes weapons, and he shoots his wife 5 times in the torso, abdomen, thigh, wrist, and finally the head. It was, you got to read some of this stuff, is that The initial projectile entered the right side from their upper abdomen, traveling front to back. So that was the first time. She bent over. Another initial shot entered the intermediate side of her left thigh. So that was the second shot. Now she is down. A non-fatal bullet struck her left wrist from the back. So he goes in the back and he shoots her. It goes to her left wrist and it breaks his diamond neck bracelet. Then the chest, face, and brain, she bent forward on her initial injuries, and shot entered the left side of her torso, over here, and traveled upward through her left breast and entered her lower left jaw. So it went like this and went like this, right? And then finally she's bent over, right? And she's laying on the ground. And while she was face down on the ground, the final shot entered the right side of her scalp, exited her head, and traveled through the upper right shoulder. This was from a blackout rifle, and they had it similar. She was shot with similar ammunition. It was Cellier and Boulet. 300 blackout ammunition, 147 grain full metal jacket. It is made in Czechoslovakia. It's a Colt company, but this is a very specific ammunition. So you have to. I mean, they had it both in the house and in the gun. So, or in the casings was found on the ground. So it was a very similar ammunition. And so all this stuff comes together, and he is found guilty. And just because of that lady, it's been kicked out, and they'll go through this again. My God, Alec Murdaugh is a real scumbag. He really is. If you know anything about the family, he's a real scumbag, and he comes from a long line of scumbags. His great-grandfather was a scumbag. His grandfather was a scumbag. His father was a scumbag. And you could own a law business, a law firm, and also be like the district attorney, and send all your clients to your law firm. Well, it was really South Carolina's and something else, man. So that is another thing that's going on. I cannot believe this. Although I do. I mean, I do believe it. Once I saw what this woman did, you just knew he was going to get another trial, which he will, and that's going to be interesting, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be interesting as hell. They're going to go through this whole thing, and I bet you somebody is going to release the pictures of the autopsy and of the crime scene, because the last time they really protected these pictures, the pictures of the crime scene and pictures of the autopsy. Like, you can't get a hold of those things. And now I bet you they get out. They get released. Someone's gonna sneak them out. I'm telling you. It's gonna be you're gonna see what happened to Maggie, and you're gonna see what happened to Paul. I'm telling you, they spent a lot of money protecting those pictures last time. This time, not so much. All right, so great news. Massey's on the run, and Alec Murdaugh is also on the run now. So he's not out of jail. He's facing 40 years for his financial crimes. So he's never getting out of jail. So but his murder conviction's been overturned. Amazing. Just amazing. Now it's going to be, what, I mean, I have to watch that stupid Nancy Mace again? I mean, how annoying is that? I shouldn't have to. You know what? He should be in prison just for me having to watch that woman. That's what really pisses me off. That and that stupid name. Murdaugh, but Murdaugh. Jerk. Anyway, that's my that's my 2 cents about the Paul Murdaugh. Or the Alex Murdaugh. Overturned. Murder convictions overturned. Amazing. Just amazing. Alright, people. Have a good day if you can. No, I can. Bye-bye.